Hey guys, welcome back to more malicious compliance stories. In this video, have you ever had a boss so arrogant they threatened to fire their best employee? My new general manager called me worthless and demanded I clock out exactly at 8 PM, even if the restaurant was burning down, so therefore I maliciously complied with her demands. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is from r/MaliciousCompliance and is titled Karen Boss Threatens Worthless Employee and Gets Humbled. So I've been a server at a high-end white tablecloth restaurant in my city for just over 8 years. In the hospitality industry, 8 years at the same venue is basically an eternity. It makes me a dinosaur. I have survived 3 head chefs, countless line cooks, a pandemic, and more gluten-intolerant customers who order the pasta than I can count. The restaurant, let's call it the establishment, is an institution. We are not a chain. We are the place you go for your 50th anniversary, or to propose or to close a 6-figure business deal. The average check for a table of 2 is easily $300 without trying too hard. Because of this, the money is incredible. I make a very comfortable living, own my home, and have a solid savings account. All from carrying plates, as my aunt likes to say. The reason I've stayed so long is not just the money though, it's the autonomy. The owner, a fantastic guy who actually started as a dishwasher in the 80s himself, understands that at this level of dining, the servers are essentially independent contractors running their own micro-businesses within this building. He let us manage our sections, handle our regulars, and comp things where necessary without needing a manager's swipe card every 5 seconds. He knew that if I gave away free desserts, it was because that customer just spent $400 on wine and I was securing their return business for the next decade. I know the menu inside out, I know the wine cellar better than the sommelier, who is actually a great guy and trusts my palate implicitly. I have regulars who will call the restaurant and ask if I'm working before they make a reservation. If I'm off, they book for a different night. That's the level of trust I've already built with them. About 4 months ago, the owner had some health scares. Nothing life-threatening, thankfully, but enough that his doctors told him to step back from the day-to-day grind. He decided to semi-retire and move to a warmer climate for the winter. To bridge the gap, he hired a general manager. Enter Karen. I hate using the name, but it fits her spiritual aura so perfectly that I have no other choice. Karen didn't come from a fine dining background, she came from corporate casual dining. Think of those places with flair on the walls and microwaves in the kitchens. She came from a world of spreadsheets, labor algorithms, and turning tables in 45 minutes flat. From day one, the culture clash was violent. She did not view the staff as assets, she viewed us as thieves. In her mind, if we were not running around sweating, we were not working. She hated the fact that the senior servers, myself and 2 others, had a rapport with the guests. She saw us chatting at a table for 3 minutes and saw time theft and not relationship building. She started implementing policies that made no sense for our clientele, like no leaning. We stand for 8 hours. Sometimes you lean on the server station for 30 seconds while waiting for the bar. Also, upsell every item, strict uniform checks. She once wrote me up because my socks were too dark of a black compared to my slacks. I'm not even joking, but her biggest gripe was with me. I think she was intimidated by me. I mean, I knew the staff better, I knew the computer system better, and honestly, on a busy Friday night, I made more in tips than she made in salary for the week. That power dynamic drove her absolutely insane. The breaking point happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are generally slower, but we had a VIP regular come in, let's call him Mr. Tech. Mr. Tech sold his company for millions a few years back, and he comes in twice a month, always sits in my section, and always tips 30%. He is a dream. He was hosting a business dinner with 3 other guys. They were looking at the wine list, and now our list has some heavy hitter bottles that cost $1,000 plus. Karen, who was hovering near the host stand like a vulture, caught my eye and aggressively tapped her wrist and mouthed, "Push the cap." She wanted me to push the reserve Cabernet, a $650 bottle that we had overstocked, so I went to the table. Mr. Tech asked for my recommendation, and he said, "We are having the duck tonight." What are you thinking? Now, anyone who knows wine knows you don't pair a massive tannic oak bomb Cabernet with duck, it overpowers the food, so I recommended a beautiful Pinot Noir from Oregon. It was structured, earthy, and perfect for the dish. It was also only $120 a bottle. They ordered 3 bottles of it throughout the night. They loved it, the bill was huge, the tip was fat, and they left happy. As soon as they walked out the door, Karen cornered me in the back office. She was actually fuming. Her face was a shade of red that usually indicates a severe allergic reaction. "I told you to push the reserve cap," she hissed. They ordered the duck, I replied calmly. The cab would have killed the palate. The Pinot was the right call. They drank 3 bottles. I don't care about their palate, she screamed. I care about the check average. That Pinot is garbage. You cost this restaurant $1,500 in sales tonight because you think you know better than me. I do know better than you about wine pairings, I said, which was a mistake. And by the way, Mr. Tech trusts me. If I sell him a $600 bottle that tastes bad with his food, he will stop trusting me and we lose a regular. She slammed her hand on the desk. You're arrogant, insubordinate, and frankly, worthless to this management team. You're a server, you fetch plates. You're not a partner, you're not a sommelier, you're a pair of hands and you're costing me labor. And then came the pivot. She pulled up my time clock records. I've been looking at your hours, she said, narrowing her eyes. You consistently clock out 15 to 30 minutes after your scheduled shift end. You're milking the clock while you sit around counting your tips. I'm cleaning my section and doing site work, I explained, and sometimes tables camp. I cannot leave if my guests are still here. Not anymore, she declared. A twisted smile formed on her face. She thought she had me. New policy effective immediately. No unauthorized overtime. If the schedule says you're off at 9 p.m., you clock out at 9 p.m. Not 9:01, not 9:05. 9 p.m. I don't care if you're mid-table. I don't care if you're polishing a glass. You're off the floor and off the clock. If you go into overtime or if you stay past your scheduled out time without my express written permission signed in triplicate, I will write you up. 3 write-ups and you're terminated for cause. I stared at her. Karen, that's impossible. If I have a table at 8:30, they won't be done by 9. Who takes the table? The closer will take it, she said dismissively. Or I will. It's called labor management, something you clearly know nothing about. If you're scheduled until 9, you leave at 9. Do you understand me, or is that too complex for a worthless server? The word worthless rang in my ears. I took a deep breath. Can I get that in writing? I asked, just so I'm clear on the rules. Gladly, she sneered. 10 minutes later, an email hit the entire staff box. Subject: strict scheduling policy. It detailed in bold red font that all staff must clock out exactly at their scheduled time. It emphasized that staying too late to finish a table was strictly prohibited and would be considered time theft and insubordination. It stated that any service duties remaining would be transferred to the manager on duty or the closing server. I printed a copy of it. I took a picture of it on my phone. I forwarded it to my personal email. I looked at the schedule. For the next 2 weeks, she had scheduled me as a mid-shift on Fridays and Saturdays. Usually, I close those nights because I'm the strongest server, but to spite me, she scheduled me 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on a Friday in a restaurant that stays open until 11 p.m. Game on. The first few days were awkward but manageable. It was the middle of the week. I get to my scheduled out time, usually around 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'd have one table finishing up dessert. I would walk up to Karen and say, "It's 8:58, I need to clock out per your policy." She would roll her eyes, snatch the check presenter from me and say, "Go, I'll handle the payment." It was annoying for the guests, obviously. I mean, they would look confused as I said a hasty goodbye, but since it was slow, Karen could manage to run a credit card without burning the place down. She smirked at me every time I clocked out, thinking she was winning, that she was saving a lot, because I clocked out on time according to her. She was now managing. The other servers were freaking out. What if we are in the weeds? They asked. Follow the policy, I told them. Do exactly what she said. Don't give her a reason to fire you. By Friday, the tension was palpable already. Friday nights at the establishment are a war zone. Controlled chaos. The kitchen is a furnace, the bar is 3 deep. You need a rhythm, a flow. You need your aces in their places. Karen had scheduled me, the lead server, to leave at 8 p.m. on Friday. Right in the middle of the absolute peak of the rush. It was a baffling decision, clearly made just to mess with my income, or to fire me if I don't comply with her ridiculous policies, as the big money is made between 8 and 10 p.m. Friday arrived. The reservation book was fully booked. We had a private party of 20 in the back room, and every table in the main dining room was turned twice. I arrived at 4 p.m. I set up my section, I took my first round of tables, and I was flying. The money was gonna be good even with the short shift. At 7 p.m. the storm hit. The host's stand was overwhelmed. The kitchen was already running 25-minute ticket times, which is long for us. Karen was running around with a clipboard looking stressed, but trying to project authority. She was yelling at the buzzers to move faster, which only made them drop things. At 7:45 p.m., a group of 6 walked in. It was the mayor and his family. I'm not kidding, the actual mayor of the city. He's actually a regular, a nice guy, loves the ribeye. The host set them in my section because the host knows that I handle VIPs the best. I greeted them, got their drink orders, recited the specials. They were in a celebratory mood. His daughter had just passed the bar exam. They were gonna order big. Appetizers, seafood towers, the works. I put their order in. I ran their drinks. I was charming, I was efficient. I looked at my watch. 7:55 p.m. My shift ended at 8 p.m. So I looked around for Karen. She was at the expo line in the kitchen, screaming at the sous chef about garnish placement. I walked up to the POS terminal and printed the current check for the mayor's table. It was just drinks so far, but the food was firing. 7:58 p.m. I walked over to the mayor's table. "Mr. Mayor, congratulations again to your daughter," I said with my warmest, most professional smile. "I gotta apologize, but my shift ends in exactly 2 minutes. He looked confused. "Oh, you're leaving? We haven't even gotten our appetizers yet." "I know, and I'm terribly sorry," I said loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear, but our new general manager Karen has implemented a strict zero-tolerance policy regarding overtime. I'm required, under threat of termination, to clock out at 8 p.m. sharp. I cannot stay a minute later. The mayor frowned. "That sounds rigid." "It is," I agreed, "but I must follow orders. Someone else will be taking over your table shortly." "It's been a pleasure." I walked away before he could respond. 7:59 p.m. I went to the back office. Karen was there, grabbing a menu. "Karen," I said, "it's 7:59. I'm clocking out." She looked at me, sweat beading on her upper lip. She looked at the dining room monitor. It was a sea of red, meaning tables that needed attention. "What? No, you cannot leave now. Look at the floor," she snapped. "Well, the schedule says 4 to 8 p.m. I said, holding up my phone with a picture of the schedule. "And your email says no unauthorized overtime, no exceptions, clock out at scheduled time, so if I stay, I'm insubordinate. You said I'm worthless, remember? So surely the restaurant can function without me." "I didn't mean tonight," she shrieked. "We are slammed." The email didn't specify unless it's busy. I replied, my voice ice cold. It said no exceptions and I'm not getting written up. "Goodbye, Karen." I punched my code into the timer clock. Clock out successful. 8 p.m. I turned and walked into the locker room. As I was changing into my street clothes, I could hear the chaos escalating, but it wasn't just me. Remember how I said the other servers were freaking out? Well, 2 of the other veteran servers had shifts ending at 8:30 p.m. They had seen what I did. They had seen the email. I walked out the back door, got in my car and drove home. I didn't just go home though. I got a friend who works the bar, let's call him Michael, and Michael was closing. I texted Michael, "Updates now." According to Michael, the moment I left, the wheels fell off. The mayor's table, set for 20 minutes without a server, their appetizers came up in the window, set under the heat lamps, and then died. When the food runner finally brought them out, they were rubbery. The mayor asked for water, no one came. Karen tried to take over my section, but Karen does not even know the menu. She doesn't know the table numbers, she didn't know that table 42 is allergic to shellfish. She ran a crab cake to table 42. Thankfully, the guest asked before eating it, but they were furious. Then 8:30 p.m. hit, the 2 other senior servers following my lead clocked out. They literally dropped their trays, figuratively, and walked off the floor. "We gotta go, Karen's rules," they told their tables, and suddenly, the restaurant was down 3 lead servers in the middle of a Friday night rush. The remaining staff were the newbies, college kids, with 3 months of experience. They were drowning. Karen was running around like a headless chicken. She was crying, actually crying. She dropped a tray of martinis near the front door. The mayor walked out. He didn't even pay for the drinks. He just stood up, told the host, "This is unacceptable," and left. By 9:30 p.m., the kitchen had stalled. Tickets were lost, people were waiting an hour for entrees, and the reviews started hitting Google and Yelp in real time. "Service has gone to hell. Server abandoned us mid-meal." Manager was screaming at staff in the dining room. "Used to be our favorite spot. Never coming back." Michael said the kitchen staff eventually just stopped cooking because they didn't know where the food was going. The expediter walked out. It was a total, unmitigated disaster. I enjoyed my weekend off. I turned my phone off. I drank some lovely wine on my porch. On Monday morning, I turned my phone back on. 7 missed calls from the restaurant. Also, 3 voicemails from Karen ranging from begging to threatening, and 1 voicemail from the owner. "OP, it's owner. I'm back in town. I need you to come in at 10 a.m. We need to talk." I put on my best suit. I printed out the email Karen sent. I printed out the schedule. I printed out the worthless conversation notes I'd written down immediately after it happened. Always document, folks. And I walked into the restaurant. The owner was sitting at table number 1, the power table. He looked tired, he looked angry, and Karen was sitting opposite him. She looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days. Her eyes were puffy. "Sit down," the owner said to me. I said. Karen tells me, "You walked out on a shift on Friday night," the owner said. "She said that you abandoned the mayor's table and caused a walkout." I looked at Karen. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I didn't walk out, sir," I said calmly. "I clocked out." I slid the email across the table to him. Karen instituted a new policy last week: zero tolerance for overtime, mandatory clock out at the scheduled time. She told me to my face that I was worthless and that if I stayed 1 minute past my scheduled time, I would be written up and fired. She scheduled me to leave at 8 p.m. on Friday. I followed her instructions to the letter. The owner read the email. He read the bold red text. He looked at the schedule I provided, and he looked at Karen. The silence was heavy enough to crush a diamond. "You scheduled your lead server to leave at 8 p.m. on a Friday?" the owner asked Karen. And his voice was dangerously quiet. "And you threatened to fire him if he stayed to help the guests?" "I was trying to cut labor costs," Karen squeaked. "Corporate standards say we're not corporate," the owner roared. He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. "We're a hospitality business." The mayor, my friend, called me on Saturday morning to tell me that my manager tried to poison a guest and that the service was worse than a fast food drive-thru. He turned back to me. "Is this true? Did she call you worthless?" "Yes, sir," I said. "She said I'm just a pair of hands." The owner took a deep breath. He stood up. "Karen, give me your keys." "But keys now. You are done. Get your things and get out of my restaurant." Karen started to sob, trying to explain about margins and labor percentages. The owner just pointed to the door. She dropped her keys on the table, did the walk of shame, past the kitchen staff who were all watching through the service window, grinning. Once she was done, the owner sat back down. He rubbed his temples. "I'm sorry, OP," he said. "I shouldn't have left without vetting her better. I just saw the resume and thought she could tighten up the ship while I was gone. I did not know she would sink it." "It happens," I said. "The damage is bad," he admitted. "We have a lot of apologies to make. I need you to help me fix this. I cannot be here every night, my health won't allow it, but I cannot hire another stranger." He looked at me. "I want you to take the floor manager position. You know the staff, you know the guests, you know the wine." "I make more money as a server," I reminded him. "It's a classic industry trap. Managers make a salary, servers make tips. Usually taking a promotion means a pay cut." "I know," he said. "I will match your last year's earnings as a base salary, plus a percentage of the wine sales, and you make your own schedule." I did the math in my head. It was a massive offer. Stability, authority, and no more side work rolling silverware. "Deal," I said. It's been 2 months since then. And yeah, we managed to smooth things over with the mayor, a comp dinner, and a very expensive bottle of vintage port worked wonders. The reviews have bounced back, and the staff is happy because I threw out all of Karen's stupid rules. We lean when we want, we wear whatever socks we want, and we prioritize the guest over the clock. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I know that usually Karen is reserved for entitled women, but my brother was fitting the role so much that honestly, he basically is a Karen. I'm so done with him at this point, I cannot think of a creative name alternative to use. So my brother has always been the kind of person to whine and moan that things are not fair. Of course, this only applies to when I get something he does not have. If he gets something and I don't have it, that means it's perfectly fine and the idea of fairness gone out the window. I understand that when dealing with 2 children, things being fair is a concept that kind of makes a lot of sense. You don't want one kid thinking they are loved more by the parents or getting special treatments. If you don't believe me, try giving 2 kids around the same age 2 different pieces of cake, but make one of them twice the size of the other. So anyway, of course, my mom tried to make things as even as possible for the both of us with neither getting special treatment. That had never stopped my brother, though, from wanting more than me and coming up with crap reasons to why it was fair or not. The main excuse being that he deserved more because he was 1.5 years older. This was something that he treated like he was way older than I actually was. We had the same allowance and he complained that it wasn't fair because he should be getting more because he was older, despite us doing identical chores, which is how my mom explained him down from that fit. The other thing that he always thought was fair was that if I got something, it meant that he either had to get one or was allowed to use it too. So when it was my birthday and I got a ton of presents from friends and family, he would complain that he felt left out and my parents would usually end up getting him a little something. But they also got me something on his birthday, so it was not like they were favoring him over me. However, when I got something on his birthday, he still had things to say about it. This time being that by giving me a present, his birthday is being ruined and he cannot have anything special because of me. So yeah, it was a pain growing up because no matter what, he would whine and over time my parents just started giving into him. I don't know if they were tired of it and just wanting him to stop or if they had some other reason. But I learned that even if I told him that he couldn't do something or use one of my things, my mom would tell me that I had to be nice and share because it was my brother. It wasn't that I was greedy with my things, it was just that I hated the double standard. All of his things were off limits to me. Also, I hated that when he would use my things, they would come back in horrible condition or not be returned at all. The number of CDs that he borrowed and broke were too many to count. The first big issue actually happened when I was like 14 years old, which might date this a little bit back. I had spent over a year saving all of my allowance, birthday money and Christmas money from family because I wanted to buy something big. The PlayStation 2, which yes at the time was the new big thing and not cheap. And by the way, Ripe Stars, if you bought a PlayStation 2 back then, do you remember how much you paid? I think back then in euros or converted to euros, I think it was around 500 or 600 euros, which was just insanely expensive at the time. Anyway, I mean a lot cheaper than the current gen consoles go for, but for teenagers it was a lot. I bought it and right away I started to hear my brother complain that it wasn't fair that I got one and could not keep it to myself. So despite paying for all it myself, I was forced to let my brother use it too. And of course, within a week he broke my controller. As an adult he got worse instead of better and even now tries to complain when things are not fair. I went on a vacation with my friends one year and my mom called me and asked me to remove all the pictures I was putting on social media. Instead of it being because there was something inappropriate, she said that me showing off was upsetting my brother and I shouldn't do that. He went to her claiming I was only posting photos to rub it in his face that he couldn't go on vacation since he did not have any money for it. Now the big escalation happened when I decided to buy myself a very luxurious birthday present, a Lamborghini. Honestly, I worked hard and saved up the money for the new car and was loving every second that I was in that driver's seat. It was one of the nicest things I ever got for myself and was a treat for it not just being my birthday, but recently getting a promotion at work too. You would think that doing so well with my life that my family would be happy for me, but they weren't. I was meeting them for dinner for my birthday and drove up with my new car and they all saw it. At first my parents seemed happy, but my brother just looked pissed off at me for no reason. It was a day to celebrate me, but he wouldn't pay me any attention and it was clear that the table was very tense. When I mentioned the promotion, he actually scoffed at me and told me that I should not brag to bring others down. Nothing was said at the table, but I know that he had a talk with my parents after I drove off and went home. I got a call from my parents the next day and both of them wanted me to apologize to my brother. I told them that I had done nothing wrong and they claimed the car and work promotion upset him and that he didn't think it was fair that I got a nice car. Especially when he did not have one. I told them that it wasn't about fair since I worked very hard for the car, it got heated and we ended the call. My Karen of a brother also called me and told me off for being insensitive and an a-hole for bringing the car there just to show off to him. He told me that he was the older brother and that meant I had to wait for him to get something before I could get it. Even though I knew he would never save his money and buy a nice car, even if he had a job that paid as well. Just like he was as a teenager, he now gets money and blows it right away on things he wants. No concept of saving for a big purchase. Just like the PS2 and just like the car. The next call I got, all three of them were together and angry that I didn't answer the first time they called when I was at work, now claiming that I think work is more important than family and not understanding that I keep my phone off at work so I don't get bothered by the ringing or the beeping. Dad, you need to make things right with your brother. Family is more important than your pride. Me, I did nothing wrong. All I did was get myself a present for my birthday. Mom, you shut off and made him feel bad. Brother, yeah, I have like emotional damage because of what you did, acting like you are better than when I'm supposed to be the older sibling. Me, you really want me to apologize for being successful and thinking that my own family would be happy for me? Brother, I want your car. I'm older and it's only fair that I get it. Me, you cannot even drive the car. Mom, not to drive it, but to give it to him as a gift. His half-birthday is coming up soon, so it could be a present for that. Me, no way, this was a present I got for myself and I'm not just handing it over an expensive car to him. You want to talk about fair? Then explain how that is fair to me. Brother, you don't deserve it after bragging. Dad, you can just save up and get another one or just get a cheaper car. You don't need something so fancy. Me, you all want to know something? I was not bragging back then, but you can be sure that I'm bragging about it now. I have a better job than you probably ever will, and the brains to be able to save up the money to get myself something nice. At this point, I would not even let you sit in my car. I deserve what I have in life, and if you don't think that's fair, then that's your problem, not mine. As many of you can imagine, me doing that did not end up making my family any happier with me. That was a statement that had a long time coming, and it felt good to get it off my chest. That did not stop my brother and especially my mom from leaving some not so friendly voicemails to me. My brothers I didn't care about, but my mom calls me selfish, and saying that I was a bad son really did hurt me. I could not take back my words, and I didn't want to because it would mean giving in to my brother. I eventually did start talking to them again, only for them to complain that my brother did not have a car and might not be able to keep his job if he cannot get to work. So then I decided to do something to teach him a lesson. I told him that I was going to give him my car and I would leave it outside of our parents' house because that was a kind of middle point between where we both lived and neutral territory. I did leave a car, but it was not my Lamborghini. Instead, it was my old beat-up car that I'd been driving before I got it. On the windshield, I left him a note explaining that if he wanted things to really be fair, he could do what I did, to drive the not-so-great car and save up money to get something better. Yeah, of course, I got more angry calls saying that I was being mean, and honestly, maybe doing that was a little mean, but I think it was worth it. If my family doesn't want to speak to me and sees me as this big jerk because I won't give my brother my new car, then maybe I should not be talking with them. I deserve people like my friends who were actually happy to hear I got a promotion and a new car. Supportive people instead of my family who seem to just revolve around my brother and his Karen behaviors. And yeah, Ripestars, by the way, I forgot to post a slide where OP asked whether he is the a-hole here or not, so I'm curious what you have to say about this. Do you think OP acted like the a-hole, or was everything he did alright in your book? Let me know in the comments. And the next one is a funny malicious compliance story, which is titled, I was very compliant during timeout as a child. So when I was about 4 years old, I was throwing a tantrum over something dumb. Honestly, I don't remember what. I know I was in nice shoes and a party dress, so I probably was sad that I had to leave a friend's birthday party or something. My mother put me in timeout in an upholstered chair in her dining room. She said I was not allowed to get up or make a sound. I'm currently 20 and I have a visceral memory of stopping crying long enough to be afraid of how big she looked bent over the chair as she yelled at me. Then she left the room. That's when I realized I really needed to go to the bathroom. I had not since leaving the birthday party, but I was not allowed to get up or make any noise. I remember trying to wait as long as I could, not that long, before realizing I was gonna be in timeout forever, so I may as well let the inevitable happen. I was still crying from being yelled at, and I remember thinking, that will show her not to tell her I shouldn't move or make noise. My mother came back to find her soaping wet child and the task of cleaning this upholstered chair. She asked me, it was only 20 minutes. If you couldn't wait, why didn't you get up and tell me? And I said to her, you told me not to get up or say anything. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.